And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're going to be talking about this mystery signing at the defensive end for the Washington Commanders. And we're going to be talking about the impact that's going to have on this roster moving forward for this upcoming season. And so before we go ahead and jump into this mystery signing at the defensive end, I first wanted to remind you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, just like Jaden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin for a lot of touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football here. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this mystery signing for the Washington Commanders. And so it looks like that they have gone out. They've signed a rugby star in TJ Maguranyanga. And so here is a player that, look, he's playing defensive end. And again, he's got a rugby background. And you're probably asking yourself, how does a rugby player make it to an NFL roster? That is a terrific question. And so it looks like that he was selected by the IPP program. And if you're not familiar with that, what that is it's the NFL's International Player Pathway Program. It aims to provide elite international athletes with the opportunity to compete at the NFL level, improve their skills, and potentially earn a spot on an NFL roster. And so according to what I'm reading here, it looks like that TJ, I'll call him that for short here. It looks like that he was scheduled for 3 workouts and he didn't even make it out of workout 1. And it looks like that the Washington Commanders went ahead and grabbed him. It looks like that the pro day takes place here at the University of South Florida. And again, they're scheduled for 3 workouts. He did make it out of workout 1. He's 21 years old. He's 6'5", 235. Again, he would be defensive end, or he's signed to be a defensive end. And he was selected along with 13 others to train for 10 weeks out in Florida at the IMG Academy. And again, then they had a pro day at USF. And so that is where the Washington Commanders, I guess, went out, saw him, and then they went ahead and signed him. And so it looks like that he would become the second player here from Zimbabwe to play into the NFL. The first one was Nate Landman. And then it looks like that also too, Sandman, whose father played international rugby for Zimbabwe, has been a very solid player for the Atlanta Falcons. And so that's what I'm reading here. And so anyway, talking about this guy in this signing. And so look, at 6'5", 235, has great size. And then you wonder if the athleticism is there. I mean, it could be a real steal. And I think that the bottom line that we take or have to take out of this is that, look, this is probably going to be, I think, a low risk and a high reward for the Washington Commanders if this works out, because, I'm not sure. I don't have any game footage or anything like that, but I know that, look, with rugby, it is a physical game. And so I think a lot of that could definitely translate here. And so we'll see what happens once he puts the pads on. And then you're saying to yourself, well, maybe does this really translate to the NFL? And I would say that yes. And I also think that with the Washington Commanders, look, they've done this before, because this is not the first time that the Washington Commanders have gone to this program. And so just looking, I think on NFL.com, I was able to come up with this. And it looks like that we have a player that was in this same program here in F.A. Abate. And so he played with us here in 2024, 2023, and 2022. You see that, look, in 2022, he had 14 solo tackles. He had 10 assists, and he also had 4 sacks as well. Didn't really do too much in 23 and 24, but he was also a player that was in this program. And so I think that when you see something like this, and you see that the Washington Commanders have taken a chance here with the player that has been in the IPP NFL program, this is why I get a bit excited about this. And I love the fact that, look, Adam Peters continues to show that he's willing to do just about anything to make this work and anything for the Washington Commanders to be very successful. And so I love this signing. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm certainly going to be looking at the OTAs and just looking at everything that I can find out about him. But I do think that, look, he has some great size. I think that the rugby play is certainly going to translate here. And then I just want to see, how does he handle the physicality at the NFL level? And so, anyway, let me know in the comments here what you're thinking about this recent signing for the Washington Commanders. Do you see that this guy could maybe make the roster and maybe make an impact for us? I mean, I know that that's a bit of a stretch, especially since we haven't seen any type of game footage, but I would say just because, this has worked out for the Washington Commanders before, maybe this is something that works out again. And I don't think that it necessarily changes the plans and what the Washington Commanders want to do. I do think that when you see a signing like this does tell me that there's still, I think, some things that the Washington Commanders want to get done on the defensive side of the ball. I think that looking at that Super Bowl in which the Philadelphia Eagles were able to really dominate the Kansas City Chiefs up front, I think that that's really like a blueprint for what the Washington Commanders want to do. I think that being able to generate pressure off of the edge, really make these elite offenses uncomfortable. I think that that is something definitely that, the Commanders are going to focus on in the NFL draft. And I've said this before, I said this on the last video. I think that this is the type of draft where you don't necessarily have to go out and get you that player at pick 29. I don't know if pick 29 is going to be a player that's going to immediately start for you, but I do think that there's so many players that we've talked about that are coming out in this NFL draft that, look, they may not be necessarily a day one starter, but I really do believe that, look, as time goes along, as they get coached up, they could really seriously be an impact, towards our defense. And I mean, we've talked about the corners, we've talked about the edges, we've talked about some of these defensive tackles and things like that. And so, look, if you can find a player like this that you're signing, you're not using any draft capital or anything like that, I'd have to take a look and see what that does for our roster as far as roster spots. Is there any type of exemptions and things like that? Does it count for, when you're taking a player out of this program? But I just like it because, again, you see that Adam Peters is really just look, he's trying to hit the home run with this team and doing everything that he can possibly do to just really improve this football team. And so, anyway, let me know in the comments here what you think about this most recent signing, and then also to let me know too about some of these prospects here. Do you think that the Washington Commanders are absolutely going to be in the market for a defensive player early on? Do you think it's going to be a day one, a day two type of thing? Do you think that it's going to be later on that the Washington Commanders would address this? So remember, we have 5 picks, I believe, in this upcoming draft. And like I said, I do expect for the Washington Commanders to still be aggressive here on the defensive side of the ball. And so, look, as we always say around here, go Commanders. And as usual, I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.